what is your favorite rap subgenre, or like what is a rap subgenre that interests you the most? Obviously, as this sort of genre of music has continued to live on, we've got trap now, we have drill rap
Right.
now, we have all sorts of different types of rap. What is your favorite or most interesting one?
I would say still probably like I don't know if this is what it would be even called but like conscious rap or like the stuff that okay, the artists that I would consider like under this, and tell me what you think it would be called too, because I think it was always called like conscious rap, but
Yeah.
it just meant it wasn't like cars and money rap. So like the Roots, Common, Talib Kweli, Most Def, early Kanye, Little Brother, like all those like Dead Prez, like those cats, all the artists that performed at Dave Chappelle's block party in '04, on that event, which was amazing, along with the Roots, the OK Player. So on Roots, the brand OK Player, that was their original website. They had a whole bunch of like artists sort of through that. Like Dilla was part of all that type of stuff. Like Tribe Called Quest, you could probably add them into that too. Just like wrapped it with a message. Like not
Yeah.
everyone wants to hear
More
music with a
lyrical.
message. Yeah, lyrical stuff. I just prefer that. I don't have a problem with the less lyrical stuff. I just prefer that because I think I don't know, like I guess people don't listen to music always for a message and they don't want to have to
Oh,
learn
absolutely.
something.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. I don't
Yes.
know. If
Yes.
you're making I guess it's the same. Imagine if you're a producer, like I imagine you'd want to listen to the type of stuff that like inspires you, like, oh shit, like look what they just did with that. So with the lyrical stuff, if we're writing lyrics, for me, I want to listen to stuff that's going to inspire me to
Yeah. Tells a
continue to
story. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know how much it's not the same anymore as
No.
far as that it was like it was a straight subculture back in the day or subgenre back in the day.
Yeah.
When I say back in the day, like probably around the same era, like Little Brother came out in '02. I can't remember when OK Player, that must have been late '90s. And all of that, and they were all lumped in with the neo soul stuff, Badu and D'Angelo and Maxwell and Anthony Hamilton, Jill Scott, like Music Soul Child, all that type of stuff. Everyone was like working together and it
Yeah.
was just such because that was my other favorite genre. It's not just hip hop, but the like R&B, like neo soul was always my jam. So like those two together, yeah, there's not really much of it. It's not like associated with it, and there's not like sorry associated with other artists. They're not like crews releasing stuff like they used to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like the few and like even just like J. Cole stuff has been really dope lately. Like his bars and stuff have been A1. And there's a bunch of
Yeah.
other, there's other cats similar, but I would probably say that'd be mine. What would be yours?
I'm actually in a very similar field. I would say you call it conscious rap, which I like. I like that. That's a good word for it. I think another word you could use for it is like like conceptual rap, just because like
Mhm.
a lot of those albums, like from those artists you're talking about, like their albums, like you said, they have a meaning. They tell a story. They have a concept behind them. Modern ones that come to mind, like yes, they're few and far between, but I still think like give your flowers to Kendrick. Obviously, like
Of course.
he's still bringing out incredible lyrical, dense content. Like you said, J. Cole was a great one. I think even a guy like Denzel Curry,
For sure.
I mean, he's done some crazy stuff that like I'm like, wow, like blown away with. So I think there's still some rappers out there, and I'm leaving a lot out too.
Like Jid,
But
Bay.
back in the day, I definitely think you are right. Like that subgenre was a big deal. But I will say this too: the people who can execute it really well, like not only be super lyrical, but also make it sound really good.
Mm,
Like those are some of the most praised.
yes. Hmm. Who
So,
who would who would be that come under that?
ooh, I mean, like
Will that be
I think
Cole? I feel like that must be Cole, like particularly lately. He's on a run right now.
Cole is definitely on the run. Like I would say, like going back in the day, even like look at Nas, like he's
Still going.
still going, and like people like praise him. Like I've seen him in multiple number one lists. I mean, even some of what Jay Z has done. We talked about Jay Z a little bit. Like he has some good lyrical content. I mean, he's
Incredible.
obviously like not like I don't know. I wouldn't say he's the best lyricist, but like he's definitely like top. He's up there. Like he's definitely good. So I don't know. There's definitely there's definitely a lot of good lyricists back in the day. Nas, Jay-Z. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's so many. And I don't know why I'm having a blank, but there was definitely a lot more then, but I think there was more room for that then. And then it was like this, like around like I think when Crunk came in, sort of everything changed. I think Crunk might have
Mhm.
got popping maybe 04, 05, and then it kind of merged into trap
Yep.
after that run, and then kind of everything hasn't really been the same because like a lot of people, one of my friends, I got these rapper friends in between Atlanta and Dallas called Bodega Brothers. There's three of them, and they were saying when they were playing their music to dudes in Atlanta, they were like, "Oh, bro, like chill. There's too many words. You got too many words going on." And these dudes aren't like crazy lyrical, but they're definitely more like lyric focused rappers. And when they told me that, I was like, "Oh, okay." So like I think people don't want to hear too many words sometimes, you know? So
Yeah,
it's
no, it's definitely becoming more and more, like, production based, and I'm wondering if it's
mm,
because and this is totally, like, going down a rabbit hole, but I'm wondering if it's because, like, you know, people get more and more stressed. Like, we see so much content in a day. We see so much, like, words we're reading, we're working, we're doing so much in a day. Like, we at the end of the day, we just wanna listen to something that's, like, kinda just lets us relax and, enjoy ourselves rather than, like, actually having to think, which
mm,
I like. I like thinking. I like artists who can make me think, but
I guess there's something for every mood, I guess, is what's important.
yeah.
And I think there's some people who just exclusively don't ever want to have music that makes them think, and
Mhm.
each to their own, I guess. So it's sort of, I guess that is good, but now it's like, it's just interesting that it's gone further and further from that, and there's less to choose from, or
Mhm.
if the less artists that are making that music, if you want modern stuff, or like Corday is a great example. He's amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
Cordae is a good one, yeah.
he's definitely like the future of that genre, I think, as far as the
Yep.
young kids too. And I lost it.
JID is a good one too.
Yeah, Jed's doing great. Where was I going with that? Is it like I feel like it's like the more and more, oh yeah, if you want to find new stuff that is of that kind of lyrical focus music, it's so hard now because of the noise. So like 20 years ago, and I'm not trying to say like everything was perfect 20 years ago, it was just very different. And it was like if you wanted to find that music, well, cool, go to okplayer.com, and whoever they talk about, I'm probably gonna like it. And it was easy to sort of find the everyone associated together, the raucous guys with the backpack era with like,
Mhm.
Quali and Mos
Yeah.
and Company Flow and all that stuff. And then now there's so much music. I hear there's like 60,000 songs per day. No, it's gotta be more than that. Some absurd number of songs per day that's put out on streaming. So imagine just trying to wade through the noise and find good artists, because so many people now rap because technology, for one, when back and then you had to have mad money. In the 90s, it was like
Studio,
the
yeah.
tapes. Then it was to buy all this stuff. It was super expensive. So then there was a financial aspect, and it was just like, then what? Okay, cool. You make it. It's like when we were recording music in like '02. Cool. Now what? What are you gonna do with it? Ain't no SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube. Like, what do? You got to press it up. You got to take it to a store, and you got to be like, "Hey, I make music. Could you put this in? If it sells, then cool. Then what though? What are you gonna do if you shoot a music video? This is, you can't get it on MTV unless you're in a label. So all of these challenges now, it's just like wading through the noise. It's a complete opposite now. So now with hardly any artists, and it was so hard to get on, to now you don't need to get on, but then how do you get it found? Because it's like who has the time or the energy to like really dig? It's different challenges, I guess,
Yeah, no, it's definitely bloated. That's, like, a great
for
word
sure.
for it. I mean, like,
Loaded for
I'm
sure.
so glad, like, yes, it's more accessible. Like, I would n like, there's so many artists that, like, I probably would've never listened to, but like you said, it can definitely get overwhelming, and I think it's harder in ways it's harder and it's easier. It's harder in ways to, listen to some of the people that probably deserve recognition, but I would say it's all it takes is really one song nowadays for you to kinda blow up, so but, I mean, it's always been like that, so I don't know.
But I guess, yeah, it's the digital era was supposed to remove the gatekeepers, but I feel like it's more gate kept than ever, being that all the labels now, excuse me, have like ownership shares in Spotify. So that means unless you're signed to some sort of a major label, you're essentially not getting on any Spotify editorial playlist at all at any point in time. And that's one of the major keys. Though also it's become a song-based economy and not an artist economy. So if
Mm,
you say your 10-second clip on TikTok blows up and it's become a challenge or everyone's using it to do something,
yeah.
cool. When's the last time you heard something that you liked on social like that and then checked out the artist? I don't think that happens very often. Maybe there's got
Yeah.
to be a single digit percent of people that are going to do that. So obviously, the larger that scales, the more people that one, single digit percent represents. But for the up and coming independent artists like ourselves, or undiscovered, really is probably where we're at. Like, how do you do it? Because everything's also based on like social media sort of popularity is a lot based on like wild antics. Like you got to do some crazy shit, or you got to say something controversial or
Mhm.
problematic or something, and it's just become this whole like clown show of just fuckery that you've got to participate in. So like how does an artist, someone like, a new artist, like if Corday wasn't signed or whatever, like a cat like that, who's probably your age, who's just actually dope and making dope stuff and got a message and it's a bop, but it's saying stuff. And like, all right, so how does
Mhm.
he or she get that out? Like, what do you even do? Labels only want to touch you if you've already got a following. So do you try and like it almost seems like redundant if you've got 5,000 followers and you're gonna try and make a TikTok challenge? Like who the fuck's gonna do that? Like, so it's like I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss with what you even do. You can run ads. We run a social media agency. We run ads for a lot of my music, but then like I don't know how much that really converted. I tried the Spotify ads, and when I tried it, to be fair, it wasn't as robust as I think it is now. But like it's just it feels to me, who've participated in both eras, it feels more impossible right now to get any traction in music. I think that's why right now I'm like happy to not do it. And if I go back to making music, it'll be just because I want to make something dope and put it out in the world. I'm in the process right now of trying to re-inspire myself, my brother as well, who we work together on everything. I've gone back to the beginning, like the very beginning, and making all of that stuff and listening. I don't listen to my own stuff, so going back and revisiting it all, everything, to be like, all right, well, I've said so much. I've had hundreds and hundreds of songs out, so I'm like, why should I contribute to that pollution anymore? And I don't think people think like that. So they're like, fuck it, just put this song out, bro. Like, and then what does that really do though? Like it gets 100 plays. Yay. Like I don't know. It's such a weird time and it's easy to be jaded, I think, about it. And like I just don't know what the answer is unless you want to do some crazy stuff and I'm not interested in that. And I imagine all the artists that we're talking about would also not be interested. So it's I would almost argue that it's tougher than ever. You know.
Hmm. Yeah, no,
And not even be
that's
negative either.
super interesting perspective. Like, I didn't even when I posed that, like, I wasn't even thinking about, like, you've literally lived through both of those eras. So it's
And seen
interesting
it
because
change.
I think a lot of people, like, their assumption is, "Oh, it's easier." Like you said, there's SoundCloud, there's Spotify, there like, yes, there's so many streaming platforms, but it sounds like labels still control it as they did back in the day, but even more so.
Yeah, it's
You
just a
know?
different like before you had to get a meeting to go and play them your stuff, and then now, what do you do? Because 'Cause they're not gonna talk to you unless you got 1,000,000 followers and a hit song on TikTok already.
Yeah.
That's when they work with you, and it's because they care nobody cares about artists, they just care about the song. Like, it's
That's
hard
true,
for an
yeah.
artist to pick up, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Well,
that's
and that's
strange.
another, like, I also talk about sports on this podcast. That's like another that's a whole culture kinda thing. You
Mhm.
wanna talk about loyalty, I don't know how much of a sports fan you are, but, like, think about all the free
Excuse me.
agents and all of that who just leave now, and that's, like, accepted. Like, there's the loyalty has gone so far down, like,
Hmm.
as a cultural, like, I guess you could say moral standpoint, like loyalty towards artists, loyalty towards sports teams, loyalty towards, like, just as a general statement. Like you even look at like Gen Z, they I want to say like there's some sort of statistic like they are more likely to leave jobs like every year. Like more
Hmm.
like it and it makes sense. You look at like their listening habits, their content habits, like you said, it makes sense that they only are after a song and not necessarily an artist.
That's a really good parallel to make because I know that over time it kept, like I think it became about 2 to 3 years per job was pretty acceptable. And now you mentioned 1 year as maybe the average. I'm an employer as well, and I've hired a bunch of Gen Z, and it hasn't gone so well. So we do have one
Yeah.
now. He's amazing, but finding the people who sort of want to stick anything out and do stuff is that there's like a level. Do you know what it is as well? And this is no like obviously you're extraordinarily mature and switched on for your age, dude.
Thank
By the
you.
way, like
Thank you.
big ups for real. Um, there's like a an entitlement
Oh,
thing that
absolutely.
you could,
Yeah,
and I'm not
big
necessarily
time.
pointing a finger at Gen Z specifically because I know that millennials got. I'm at the very beginning of millennials,
Yeah.
like so I would imagine there's probably to a degree some of us as well, but there's more just because like everything was like we had to, and I think it comes back to what we are talking about before with the CDs and like we had
Work
to
ethic.
work. There's work ethic because you had to work for and everything you
Yes,
got. Like
yes.
we got the Source magazine 3 months late in Australia, and it was like 4 times the cover price. So it said $3.95. That shit was like $16 or something. Maybe not that much, but significantly more. So we didn't get any, there was no internet to get information from. So, or if there was rudimentary
Mm,
internet. So like the concerts came out after the artist was long after they were popping type of thing. So you never got to see anything fresh. You had to order the CDs and pay 40, $50 for it. And then you were just obsessed with that because that's a lot of money for a 16-year-old to spend on a CD or whatever. So
yeah.
right now, silver platter, bro. Like everything, anything you want, you pull it up on your
Yep.
phone
The
and like
accessibility.
and like people who grew up with that, which is why I was saying it's actually cool that you got to experience it, even if it was a tail end, you still got to deal with it. Um, and just to experience what it was to like we had to listen to the radio and like in the 90s, I guess, and like tape it. So if you hear
Mhm,
this beginning of a song or just
mhm.
before you could tell a song was coming on, you'd have it ready on play and pause, and you'd be like, all right, take pause off and record. So like you'd make mixtapes like
Yep.
live listening to the radio. So you'd even have the host talking over it because that
Burning
was the only way to hear
CDs.
the burning CDs was the next stage of that.
Yep.
Exactly. Downloading MP3s off LimeWire and stuff, and then trying to, make CDs and stuff. So like we just had to work for stuff more. And it's not saying back in my day, but it was just what it was. So you appreciate stuff. So if you have this mentality of like, oh, and that's what these Gen Z that we've hired in our business have sort of been, unfortunately, like sort of expected kind of more money or more, and they didn't do any of the work or they just weren't good at the work. Um, it was just it's very interesting to see all of that, and then I hadn't really thought about the parallel for everything about the music, about like you could say for films, they were like, oh, if it's not on Netflix, I'll just pirate it. Like
Yeah,
all
true.
these different things, the way that people like the different generations operate, and I don't blame the generation. It's not anybody's fault when they were born and the
Yeah,
world that they were born into.
yeah.
It just is what it is. So like yeah, I mean, you seem much more switched on and aware of that. So if you do notice any tendencies, I bet you would probably try and mitigate that in yourself because you're
I
aware.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
is
I
that
I
fair?
try, I try for sure. It's but like you said, it's kind of a, cause and effect. I mean, we things have become so accessible for people, like, it makes sense why they're not so loyal. Like, why should
It's
I
true.
be so loyal towards something when I can just
Anything.
get it, the same thing or feeling or whatever I want tomorrow on a different thing, Like, it just makes sense, so.
Relationships too. I guess that's the Tinder era and all
Mhm,
that stuff. Like I miss
mhm,
that. I've been my go like 12 and a half years. So we probably missed it by a year or two. I'm
mhm.
kind of glad. It felt like everyone I know who's single just complains about it. So I feel like it's every element of society is just Uber Eats,
Mhm.
DoorDash, whatever. Like right now, right now. I want the McDonald's. Get it to me now. Like,
Yep. The
yeah.
right now era.
Yeah, it's weird, but cool. It's a strange time to be alive, my man.
Yep. Yep. Okay, well, we kinda went down a rabbit hole there,
We
but I
did.
liked it. It was good conversation, I
It's
loved
good,
it a
bro.
lot. So, going back to rap,
Yes.
what is your favorite era of rap?